A couple nights ago, we had a freak out of nowhere storm. It seems like around here, most of the time, we know pretty well when the weather's gonna do something kind of nuts, but this one struck me out of nowhere. I saw nothing in the weather reports until basically within the hour of when it was gonna happen. I was driving, I was heading off to a meeting, and while I'm driving down the road, I mean, the rain starts pouring down hard, and whatever, no big deal. The wind picks up a bit, no big deal. But then these gusts came through, and they literally were moving my car. I could feel it moving my car. And I was thinking like, man, I wonder what it's like back home. But of course, I just continued on to where I was going and took care of things. My wife texted me a little bit later, these pictures, showing this willow tree in our backyard and how it had just lost this huge branch. There's this whole section of the tree now that's just open, right? And it really got me thinking just about preparedness and what this windstorm could have done. In past years, when we had windstorms like this, it was really common that you'd lose power. Fortunately, we have a pretty good grid here. Most of it's pretty new with all the growth we've had in our area. And we didn't have any power outage that I'm aware of, none at our house, but it absolutely could have happened. And I'm glad that I'm prepared with backup generators, with all sorts of things that could help sustain us through even an extended period of time. We've lived in places much more rural where when you lost power, in one case, some friends of ours were out of power for 2 weeks. We had a windstorm like this, except it was even worse, and they literally had a tree, the whole tree, fall over on their van, smashed it right in their driveway. So we need to make sure that we're prepared, because honestly, these storms are probably one of the most likely scenarios for most of us to need to be able to use our emergency preparedness skills. But there were a couple other important lessons that kind of hit home with this emergency. One was, I think a big part of preparedness is knowing and having a good relationship with the people around you so that you have community. My wife has the phone numbers of each one of our next door neighbors and the people right behind us. We had this big branch completely fall off the tree, smash over the fence, and we were able to text the neighbor and say, hey, we're sorry about this. There was a ton of mess over in their yard from our tree. We're really sorry about this. And they responded like, hey, it's okay. We just want to make sure, are you guys all okay? And next thing we knew, we had people that were more than willing to come help us, and we were able to help them. Another important lesson was the value in having the tools to be able to take care of stuff. So I came home, and it was really the next day that I was able to get to this. But the branch that had fallen, at least, I was able to just take my chainsaw and start cutting it up. And so this branch was leaning all the way across there. And you can see here, I just chopped it up, and I've got this pile of logs here that we absolutely will find something useful to do with. I was able to get that cut up to help the neighbors out, give them, really they had a bunch of people there to help too. And so they borrowed my saw, got all their stuff cleaned up in no time. And then the next thing, the next lesson, I suppose, for preparedness is just being able to take whatever scenario that you're facing and be able to troubleshoot and problem solve. So now we're in this situation. I got the mess cleaned up. I got the branch that fell down taken care of. Fixing the fence is no big deal. I've done fences a ton. But now we get to be arborists because one, my wife wants to save the tree, but two, that branch up there, it's not just a branch, it's like one of the main trunks of the tree is split. And the other half of that split is still up there, and it's dramatically weakened. And honestly, we're really concerned that thing's gonna come down, and if it does, it's gonna fall down right here in the middle of the yard and just smash anybody that's in the yard at the time. In fact, right where Jake's standing holding the camera, that branch just gonna come right down right there. So we need to take care of that. So today, that's our goal, is to get up really high. We're gonna be using this ladder. We're gonna get way up there, and we're gonna start taking out a bunch of branches. And then this whole tree is gonna be very heavy toward one side because of everything we lost that way. So we're gonna have to basically do some tree work here to pare it back a bit and give the tree its best chance of surviving by not having any of it leaning too far out in one direction. So that's the rest of the project we're gonna be working on in this video. But I gotta tell you, like, the things that could have happened as a result of that storm, I'm really glad that we were prepared for. And I'm really grateful that really we only ended up facing a very minor emergency, because that branch that could have totally smashed my shed fell just a few inches further over to one side, and it only did a little damage to the fence and left a little bit of work for us to clean up. So it's time to get after it. Let's take down parts of this tree. Safety first, right?
Yep.
And there's no way that's gonna fall either.
Attached up here.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, just like you said. We may end up wanting to take off some of that lower branch anyway, because it sticks out as far as it does. Should we do it right there or a little further out? Yeah. Oop. There we go.
Nice. Sliding.
It's a good opportunity to show that Jake does some of the work sometimes.
No gesture. Sometimes you can talk me into doing some work.
All right, well, we got into this and we got a fair amount cleared out and took a lot of load off that branch that's been heavily weakened. But unfortunately, there's a lot that's up really, really high and it's not gonna be safe. And we're gonna destroy my chicken coop and garden and everything. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna need to go rent a lift so we can get up higher, and then this becomes an easy job. So sometimes you can't own all of the tools, unfortunately, but with equipment rental places around, we can very inexpensively rent a lift and do this job ourselves. But as you can see, a job like this leaves us with a ton of detritus or debris or whatever word you want to use. But the cool thing is all this stuff has use. The leaves are compostable. These little branches, well, we're gonna try making some willow water for the first time. Don't know what that is? Well, you'll have to check out our next video. The other cool thing is I've got all these logs, and once these are good and dead, well, if I were to do this right now, by the way, I would end up with willow trees in the middle of my garden, because willow just, as soon as it gets some nutrients and some moisture, it's just gonna shoot off new stuff. But once I let these things get good and dead, I'm gonna use these as the bottom of my hugelkultur. So I'm doing some hugelkultur myself, some hugelkultur garden beds. So rather than a mound, just normal garden beds. But I'll have a nice layer of willow logs. Willow makes for great wood for hugelkultur as long as you let it get dead first. So hugelkultur, compost, and willow water, here we come.